Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Well, today, what an honor to have in the studio with us David Rubin. Now, we've Skyped him in from Shiloh, Israel, but today we have him live in the studio. He's traveling the United States and in particular the West Coast, promoting his new book, Sparks from Zion. There's a picture of it there, and you're going to want to pick up this book at the bookstores, and we'll tell you about that. But David, what an honor to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Perry.
Good to see you,
my friend. Good to be back with you.
Yeah, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm in the middle of a speaking tour here in Oregon and California before that, and just trying to get a little truth out there.
A lot of truth out there. I want to get into the book, but before I do, the controversy over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu coming to the United States to speak before the joint session of Congress on March 3rd. And even our own Vice President may be a little too busy to attend. What do you think? Well,
he's already made it clear that he's scheduled to be away. He's conveniently scheduled to be away a month from now. It's a complicated issue. On one hand, on the other hand, it's not complicated at all. The situation is this. House Speaker John Boehner invited Prime Minister Netanyahu to come speak about the Iranian nuclear issue primarily, also to speak about Islamic radicalism, but which is a very serious threat, not just to Israel, but also to all of Western civilization. So there was an uproar over this on both sides of the ocean, mind you, because in Israel, the left-wing politicians were going crazy because they were saying, hey, whoa, March 17th is the elections, and you're making a speech to Congress on March 3rd. This is all political. It's all time to raise your prestige and make you look good in the eyes of the world and, of course, in the eyes of the voters. So they're going crazy in Israel about that. On this side of the ocean, in the United States, the Obama administration is also going crazy. They're saying, whoa, hey, protocol. What about protocol? This is not proper protocol that the House Speaker invites the Prime Minister of Israel to speak before the joint houses of Congress without consulting us. And so there are some differences of opinion on whether they were consulted or not consulted, but the fact is that they're saying that it's an issue of protocol. And so therefore, the Obama administration is saying that Netanyahu should postpone his speech by several weeks. The left-wing Labor Party in Israel, which is calling itself the Zionist Union these days for the purpose of the elections, they also are saying that Prime Minister Netanyahu should postpone his speech by several weeks. The problem is that all of this really has nothing to do with protocol, and it has nothing to do with the Israeli elections. What it has to do with is that the Iranians are going full force in their nuclear program to acquire a nuclear bomb with which to destroy Israel. They've stated it very clearly. So that being the case, there are negotiations going on between what is called the P5+1 nations, which is basically the United States, assisted by several of the Western powers, against Iran. The two of them are negotiating. Iran is negotiating mainly with the United States at this point, and the purpose is supposedly, ostensibly, to reduce the power of Iran in its nuclear program, to minimize its nuclear program. The problem is twofold. One, that the nuclear program, this possible agreement that they will soon have, states very clearly that the Iranians will be able to continue enriching uranium, which can only be used for a nuclear bomb. There's no other purpose of enriching uranium. And that is the main issue here. At the end of March comes the deadline for this agreement.
Yeah.
And word coming out of these negotiations says that they are very close to an agreement, that most likely an agreement will be signed, and President Rouhani of Iran has stated very clearly to his own parliament that the Americans, this is a quote, the Americans are begging for an agreement.
Wow.
There can be no more timely date for Netanyahu, for the Israeli Prime Minister, to speak about this existential issue for Israel than now.
There is nobody that can communicate the seriousness of the moment like he can. When he's been before the Congress before, he gets more standing ovations than the president.
Well, that's what they're afraid of, Perry.
Yeah, I realize that.
Both his opponents in Israel and his unfortunate opponents here,
yeah,
are afraid of that.
But the timing couldn't be better. Let me ask you this: back to Israel just for a moment. How does he look in the election, the upcoming election in the end of the month? Does he look okay, or you think he's?
Yes, it seems pretty clear the way things are going. He is the candidate for the Likud. Remember, it's a parliamentary system.
Right.
So you don't vote for a person, you vote for a party. And the top person on that party's list of candidates is the one that becomes prime minister. Mm-hmm. So the Likud is predicted, according to almost all the polls, to be barely edging out the Labor Party, which, as I said, is calling themselves a Zionist union these days, even though one could question their Zionism in terms of their loyalty to the land of Israel and their passionate desire to give away parts of the land of Israel.
Right.
So that's the way it's looking right now, that Prime Minister Netanyahu will likely become the next Prime Minister of Israel in the next term, and mainly because there are more right-wing parties and there are more people who lean right of center than left of center in Israel. And as you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu is right of center, and there are several parties to the right of him.
Do the Israelis blame Netanyahu for the strained relationship with the United States? Because we see it as nothing more than the president and this administration being, if I can say it, anti-Israel. They're certainly not friendly. But I was wondering how it's being interpreted in Israel.
Well, for political purposes, the left is saying that Netanyahu is ruining the relationship with the United States.
Okay, that's what I thought.
He's destroying the relationship with the United States.
Yeah.
But as you just stated, it's anything but the truth. But the truth. The fact is that Netanyahu is merely reacting to a very, very unfair and biased Obama administration that doesn't seem to really understand the Middle East. And if they do, then they are passionately against Israel.
I can't help but think that his speech before the joint session will certainly sound the alarm of where things really are with Iran and Israel, and even though we're in the midst of these so-called negotiations, that we just cannot allow Iran to get the bomb. And with his ability to communicate that in such a passionate way, an elegant way, will probably stir the American people deeply.
I have no doubt about that. He is a brilliant communicator, and his English is excellent for an Israeli, and because he did, after all, grow up here as a teenager and into college, and he went to MIT, and so his English is quite good, and he speaks well, and he's certainly, nobody knows the facts in Congress as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu does.
Do you think he'll draw the red line again like he did before?
He usually has a couple of props with him. It's possible that he will again. Yeah. But again, I think it's critical that he speak at this time. It's critical that the members of Congress get this information, And I think what's actually very interesting will be, will be to see which of the Democrats show up.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
which of the Democrats don't show up.
Yeah.
Because they always say they're pro-Israel.
Yeah.
Everyone that says, well, it's a bipartisan issue, Israel, and the Republicans are pro-Israel, the Democrats are pro-Israel, okay, except for a few exceptions here and there. Let's see which of the Democrats don't show up.
Yeah.
And aside from Joe Biden, of course.
Yeah, well, God bless Joe.
Uncle Joe, yes.
Tell us about your book. Why did you write this one?
Well, Sparks from Zion.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
was basically referring to two kinds of sparks from Zion. We have the sparks of the fire of the Middle East, the terrorism, the car bombings, the shootings, the explosions being caused by Islamic terrorism throughout the Middle East and all around Israel. But within that terrorism, within that madness of the Middle East, you have this little spark, this little ray of light that shines through, and that is Israel. And so my book relates to all of the above. It's a compilation, a best of compilation of my articles that I've written over the past year to a year and a half. And so it's basically a journey through a year and a half of the news in Israel.
All right.
A chronological journey, and I address all of the major issues having to do with Israel's relations with America, with Europe, with the Islamic world, and the Islamic world itself, the internal politics in Israel, you name it.
Sparks from Zion by David Rubin. And let me give you a picture there. I'm sure you can get it online at Amazon. Look for it at Barnes & Noble. It is put out by Shiloh Israel Press. Now, can they get this through one of your websites?
Yes. Well, as you said, they can go right to Google. Just Google Sparks from Zion, David Rubin,
okay,
and it'll pop up right away, and you can order it immediately. Of course, you can go to the websites davidrubinisrael.com. And I have, of course, my other website, that's for the Children's Fund. But if you're looking to order the books, the best thing is to go right to davidrubinisrael.com.
All right, David is also the president and founder of Shiloh Israel Children's Organization. We want to talk to him about that coming up in just a moment, and more about the tensity of the time. And we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with David Rubin. Okay, we are back with our very special guest today, David Rubin. We have Skyped him in from Israel, there in Shiloh. You were mayor there for how long?
I was mayor for 2 years.
2 years.
And I moved on to bigger and better things, I believe. I don't think that moving up in politics is necessarily bigger and better. Okay,
that's why you're happy and you have a smile on your face. He's authored a new book called Sparks from Zion. For those watching, there's a picture of it. Look for it. You can order this book through his website. He has a couple of them, but you can get the book through davidrubinisrael.com. And he also heads up the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, and that website is shilohisraelchildren.org. But I've always said, whatever God saves you from or brings you through, he turns around and makes you a minister too, and that's the basis of your children's fund, isn't it? You had an experience, you and your son.
Well, it's true. When we were coming back from Jerusalem 13 years ago, and the halfway home, the car was hit with a massive hail of bullets. The car went completely dead. Bullets were flying. Terrorists were on the side of the road shooting with AK-47 assault rifles. I was shot in the leg. My son, we later found out, was shot in the head. And the bullet that went into his head and through his neck missed his brainstem by 1 millimeter. Well, it wasn't easy to get away from the terrorists. The car was completely dead. I got the car to start. Eventually, as the terrorist was still shooting and thank God missing, we we got up to the next community up the road where I was pronounced the 1,000th victim of terrorism by the public relations director for the hospital that I eventually got to. The fact is that one thing that came out of this experience was that we learned that not only is there physical trauma from terrorism, but there is deep psychological trauma from terrorism. And we saw it in my son, we saw that it needed to be healed, and we got to work eventually starting to heal it. How did I heal it? By establishing the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, or as Americans would say, Shiloh Israel Children's Fund.
I'm sorry, Shiloh.
Yeah, that's okay, either way is fine. So the purpose is to heal the trauma of the terror victim children and to rebuild the biblical heartland of Israel. So we have programs using art and music and animals. We built a petting zoo, we have a horse farm, and all of these techniques, all these methods of therapy and healing are literally saving the lives of thousands of children in the biblical heartland of Israel. By the way, when I say biblical heartland, I'm referring to Samaria, which is the region north of Jerusalem, Judea, which is the region south of Jerusalem, and those are the two areas that comprise what much of the world calls the West Bank, okay, which is a fictional term that was invented by the Arabs.
Right. I can't imagine, David, living like you have lived with the threat of a bomb over your head at any moment. I don't think we in America, even though we talk about it, it's been given more press, we still can't get our head around the fact that any moment a missile could hit you.
Look, that is the reality that we face, and thank God we're a resilient people. We stand up to the pressures, and we know what we have to do. We keep our eye on. How do they say? Keep your eyes on the prize. You know, that's what we do. We're focused on building our country, rebuilding our country as a sovereign nation once again. And I believe that this is a mission from the Almighty. This is something that is not easy, and it involves a lot of sacrifice, but we're doing it, and thank God we're succeeding at it.
Do most Israelis believe in the Abrahamic covenant?
Most, I would say, a substantial minority do.
Okay.
Okay, a substantial minority believes that we are the chosen people of God, that we were given a responsibility. Okay, by the way, important to point this out. Yeah. Being a chosen people doesn't mean that we just have these privileges. Right. You know, some of the Jew haters will say, well, who do they think they are? You know, well, so who do we think we are? Who do we know we are? And we're people that has been given an awesome responsibility, and it's not easy. I got news for you. Yeah. But it's a responsibility to be a spiritual leader in the world, and it's a responsibility that yes, there is a majority of Israelis that don't yet fully comprehend that responsibility, but there are many of us who do, and we're growing in numbers.
The tug of war to politically within Israel to give more land away to supposedly maybe buy peace, and those who say no, the line has been drawn in the sand. That must be an incredible tug of war, because if the left was to win election in Israel, what would happen?
Well, they would try to give it away.
That's unbelievable.
They would try to give away the biblical heartland of Israel.
So they'd give away the West Bank?
Absolutely. They would try to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep stressing the word try.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that.
Would there be civil war over that?
Because, no. I think that there would be a lot of tension, certainly, as there was when Israel gave away the Gaza Strip.
Right.
But civil war, I don't believe there would be. But again, I said they would try to give it away. Okay? The Palestinian Authority is not prepared to accept Samaria and Judea. They're not prepared to accept it. They don't want it. They want everything. So if they had to, even with the left, even negotiating with the Israeli left, if they take Judea and Samaria and create their state of Palestine, you know, this terrorist state that never existed, and they establish it there in the biblical heartland, well, they're just going to want it as a stepping stone for the rest of Israel. And even the Israeli left would not be able to sign an agreement, a peace agreement with these people, unless there was a clause in there saying that they will give up, that the Palestinians will give up all claims over any other part of Israel. And they won't do that.
Yeah.
They won't do that because they want it all. They want all the Jews into the sea. So if the left got elected, it would be terrible, but it wouldn't be the end all.
How has the response been to King Abdullah, Jordan, responding to the killing of that Jordanian pilot? I mean, it's been unbelievable to see him mount military response. What do you think of it?
I think it's a common sense response. I'm not necessarily a big fan of King Abdullah of Jordan.
Yeah.
But when you're fighting against Islamic radicals like ISIS, you have to fight on their turf. You have to fight on their terms. You can't win a war. We see this in every single war that's fought with Islamic terrorist groups. And I could name several in recent years. There has been no clear-cut victory for Israel or for the West, and that's because we try to fight on Western terms. Okay, when we're going into Gaza, we shower their villages with leaflets. We send them text messages telling them, we're on the way, here we come. Well, you can't fight a war like that and win decisively. You have to fight the war with the element of surprise.
Right.
You can't let the enemy know when you're coming. And that's how you win wars. That's how people used to win wars. But if we're fighting against Islamic radicals who hide missiles, who launch missiles from school playgrounds and launch missiles from hospitals, then we have to be decisive, we have to be clear, and we have to fight on their terms.
All right. Let's just say hypothetically, the Prime Minister gets up before the joint session of Congress. He holds up his prop. He said, this is where the line was when I was here last time. Here's where it is today. Do you think Israel is ready to go in and stop Iran from having the bomb?
Well, that's anyone's guess. There are maybe 3 or 4 people in Israel
that would know,
who know the full answer to that question. I have no doubt that we could go in and we can set their nuclear program back by at least 10 to 20 years. Whether we could totally eliminate it, that as I said, that information is in the hands of only a very small handful of people in Israel. The Prime Minister, Defense Minister, perhaps the head of intelligence, but there is no question that Israel has the ability to go in and do serious damage to the Iranian nuclear program.
That's quite a statement, and I can't help but think that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will probably lay a very sound foundation for that on March 3rd?
Well, he's going to be laying a strong foundation for the information program, getting the information out there to people. So hopefully the United States and our friends in Congress will understand how important it is and how critical it is that this agreement that Obama is rushing to sign will not be signed.
Yeah.
And you cannot fight terrorism, you cannot fight Islamic radicalism by negotiating a deal with them in which they're going to be able to continue to develop a nuclear bomb. And I have never seen an administration like this one that has no clue how to fight terrorism.
Yeah.
John Kerry, after the terrorist attacks in France, he brings James Taylor to France to sing "You've Got a Friend." Well, it's very nice. I can imagine that afterwards Secretary Kerry went over to President Hollande in France and stroked his head and said, "It's going to be okay." You cannot fight terrorists like that. The terrorists laugh in our faces when we act like that.
Yeah. David, you're an inspiration. Thank you. And thanks for stopping by here. I know that you're on a busy schedule. His new book is entitled Sparks from Zion. And check it out at the bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But look for it also online at his website, davidrubinisrael.com. That's R-U-B-I-N, Israel.com. And
hey, Perry, I'd like to just add, if I could,
yeah,
that those people, those of your viewers who want to get on board with Israel in a very direct way, should check out the website ShilohIsraelChildren.com.
Yeah.
And they can help our programs for the terror victim children.
I really want to encourage you to support that outreach. It's called ShilohIsraelChildren.org. That's the website, ShilohChildren.org. The name of the organization is the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. And support David and his outreach and his work there in Israel, because I don't think we've been impacted by terrorism, but not like you have, and personally like you have. But I want to say that helping those who have been affected by it is one of the greatest things we could do. Thank you, David. Good to see you again.
Well, thank you, Perry. I've enjoyed it.
You're going to be in the States for a little while. When do you head home?
I'll be heading home in a few days.
In a few days.
Yep.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you.